Hello everybody, this is Dan again with Starter Build. Just wanted to give you guys some info on the Tier 6 Heavy Destroyer that just came out this past month actually with a new lifetime subscription sale. So basically I'm going to take you through the unboxing of the new ship here at Earthspace Dock. And my character here that I'm using is an engineer, which I actually prefer to use the engineers with the escorts like this. And this is more of an escort than anything else. It has the name Destroyer. It's basically the same as the Tier 5 Chimera, which basically was its predecessor, and this is sort of like an enticement. Say, here you go, here's a Tier 6 ship for you lifetime subscribers, and the subscribers who happen to be veterans, which is the 1,000-day bonus. But in any case, I happen to be a lifetime subscriber, so I got this as part of the incentive, which is kind of nice because I already had the subscription. Not saying that you should buy it for this ship, because it's definitely not a a deal maker or breaker for that matter. But essentially, it's just another nice escort that you get for free with that as a perk. So just to give you sort of a heads up of what this looks like, we have a base hull of 46,000, shield modifier of 0.9, which is somewhat standard on escorts now, base crew of 750. I tend to kill them all anyway, but when they are there, they always help. Base turns 14. There are Klingon ships that are way better, but not really a huge deal. Also, the consoles. This is kind of a nice setup. We have 5 tactical consoles, which is pretty huge. Then we have the 2 science consoles and the 3 engineering. It's actually very similar to the Tier 5 upgraded Chimera setup, which again is a destroyer, just the predecessor of this model. So in any case, let's go ahead and take this out for a spin. And I'm going to see if it'll let me rename this. We'll do the pizza cutter. Badge number doesn't really matter. There we go. Done. I will take the pizza cutter. Okay, now that we've got the ship, we beamed out in space here, as you can see. The ship actually doesn't look too hideous. I do have to say that obviously most people, myself included, prefer the look of something like the Defiant or the pilot ship. I happen to be parked right next to one. The smaller, more concise escorts are kind of cool looking, but again, this one was free, so we're basically just showing you what this thing has to put out. So, as we did a basic loadout, essentially I threw on all common Mark 12 phaser relays, so 5 of those. And with each one you do get a diminishing return on the amount of extra damage it adds, but it's better to have 5 than 4 and 4 than 3 and so forth if you're going for strictly DPS, which is most of what this game is about, really. So there's that. In addition to the field generator Mark 13, that was a reward from a Delta mission. This as well, this Mark 11 shield emitter amplifier. Again, this is stuff that I sort of had laying around that we're kind of throwing into this build to sort of, test drive the ship. So we also have this RCS Mark 11. Again, you can get better, but that's what we're using here. Also Neutronium Alloy Mark 10. It'd probably be better with Mark 12 or 14 or what have you. But for now, we're sticking with that. In addition, we have our common Mark 12 phaser turret back here, and then a couple uncommons, only because they were relatively cheap on the exchange, so it doesn't really matter what's going on there. So basically we have some uncommon phaser dual heavy cannons up front. They do reasonable damage, nothing too crazy. And then the weapon of choice for torpedoes for me is the rapid reload transphasic. Now there is an argument that torpedoes in general in this game are kind of a waste because you can only use them a very small percentage of the time. But in this case, I mean, for STFs, especially at first, we're going for burst damage, at least for this run. So that is just what I've used in the past. I like the shield penetration bonus, which is mainly why I stick with Transphasic, and the rapid reload you get for free as part of completing, I believe, the Breen storyline. And so that is something that you get without a whole lot of effort, other than just playing through the story missions. With that in mind, the stations here, we have the emergency power shields, engineering team 2, suppression barrage, a bunch of different skills here. The suppression barrage is essentially because I have a hybrid commander intelligence seat, it looks like. So suppression barrage is that hybrid ability. Basically, it's very similar to the attack pattern beta, where the idea is to reduce something that the enemy can do. It's basically a debuff for them. It reduces their outgoing damage, their flight speed, their turn rate, and their accuracy. So basically, it kind of cripples them, and that's a really good thing. So we also have the attack pattern betas here. I'm doubling up on those tactical team 1s. Again, this is just sort of the way that I'm doing it. Just try it out. But you guys, you're welcome to toy around with things. They made things super easy to switch around abilities now. So you can kind of toy with different attack patterns, different tactical abilities. And this actual seat arrangement has a universal lieutenant commander as well as a universal ensign. So you can kind of be flexible there as well. So if you want a science person for that gravity well Mark 1, that's actually a really good crowd control ability that I tend to recommend. But for the purposes of this, I'm trying the torpedo spread build, just to see how that goes. That's basically the gist of that. Now, I didn't get into keybinds personally, and again, with this sort of being tailored towards beginners here, I'm really sort of kind of setting this up so you can jump in and go. So we did have to map some of the abilities down here in the tray, which I mapped the first row as 1 through 0, second row with F1 through F10, and basically the advantage of that is that I now have a set of buttons, physical buttons, that I can just mash on when I know that there's something about to happen. So I have F1 through F4 to be tactical abilities, F5 through 8 to be somewhat supportish abilities, 1 through 4 to be my, I'm entering battle and bracing kind of abilities. Also have some other little buffs from the engineering side of things. And then up top we have our push button abilities, like I have the tactical mode, and then the tachyon inversion beams, which is one of the things that makes this ship special. The tactical mode makes it so you have this phaser Lotus, which is a 240 arc, 2400 damage basically, times 8, and it's getting that 2400 phaser damage because of all the phaser tactical consoles I have. So those modifiers are kicking in, also weapon power is kicking in, all sorts of things. In addition, the tachyon inversion beam, that's sort of the passive ability, not passive, but it is something that's enabled when you're not in tactical mode. It is an active ability where you have to actually activate it, but it's something that by default you can use. Once you switch into tactical mode, that turns off and the phaser lotus turns on. In addition to that, we have our phaser power here that I, for all intents and purposes, I kind of maxed it out. Once we go into tactical mode, that's going to shoot up a little bit, I believe. If not, we can kind of deal. I put shield power pretty high. Engine, I leave at 51, aux at 50. If you were doing a aux to battery build for this ship, which you could do because you have the engineering slots for it, you could, jack the aux up a little higher for that, or run aux batteries as your ship devices, which will boost that power temporarily while you activate that. It's, kind of to each their own. I'm just running sort of a starter build. So in any case, let's get going here. So I'll pick an STF. We'll go with one of the more modern ones, since we're now in the Iconian War, so to speak. So I will grab whichever comes first, really, the Herald Sphere or the Gateway to Greythor. Alright, we're ready to go.
The invasion of Kronos has begun, but we will not fall. Their ground troops use gateways to land and set up inhibitors to block our troops from transporting to the combat zones. Transports with soldiers are inbound, but before they can launch shuttles, we need to clear the Herald ships from Kronos orbit. Once we have established a safe zone, we can send our own forces to the surface. We cannot delay.
I'm going to switch into tactical mode here. Has a nice little animation. Oh, now it looks a little orange. I'm not really measuring DPS on this run only because, like I said, it is a starter build, so it would only go to, you know, insult to injury here.
Reinforcements are inbound. Starbase is secure. shipyard is secure. The troop transports have entered orbit and will start landing shuttles. Our job is to protect them.
Yeah, so basically we just have to defend these troop transports whenever they start showing up.
Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Those gateways are emitting intense levels of beta radiation. Close them. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. Shipyard troop transports are beginning their run to the planet. A Herald Dreadnought has entered the system. The remaining Herald ships are rallying around the Dreadnought. Herald ships are attacking the starbase.
Yeah, that was the phaser Lotus there from the console. The end of one run.
Our troops have landed. We will fight for Kronos, thanks to your assistance, Kapla.
Alright, so there you have it. That is the basics of the Tier 6 destroyer. Essentially, we gave it a loadout that works for my playing style, may not work for your character or your playing style. Depends on what you want to do with it. You could just easily make a beam loadout with this thing, but this is just sort of the quintessential loadout for just using cannons and torpedoes I got to work on my keybinds a little bit. I'm probably going to actually make a keybind sometime soon just to play around with. But stay tuned. I may actually revisit this at a later date once I've played around with that and gotten a little more comfortable with the ship itself. But for anyone who's thinking about getting a lifetime subscription, it is a nice ship, but it's definitely not worth doing just for that. A lifetime subscription also has some other benefits. If you're thinking about doing it anyway, this is a nice perk, but this is not something that's going to say, yeah, you should get it instead of getting just a regular escort. I would go the escort route if it were me, just doing a new ship. But this is, it's a nice bonus to not have to worry about getting an escort, because this thing has a decent hull, decent abilities here, and great bridge officer seating. So it is a nice option, but it's really not, not necessarily the best ship. But it is fun to play with, definitely. All right, so that wraps up uh, my video here, and I hope to see you next time on my next one. Like and subscribe as always, and if you have any questions, leave in the comments below, and I'll respond as quickly as I can. And otherwise, have a great day.